Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Backtrekking, the podcast where we look back at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. I'm one of your hosts, Caliban, and as an unhappy neurotic, my spirit animal is a Kzinti telepath. I'm joined on this episode by my co-host.
I am Gooey, and I'm a peaceful vegetarian? I don't know.
We have returned to explore the stories behind your favorite Trek shows, and today we are looking at a short story by a sci-fi great that directly inspired one of the most suspenseful and most unique episodes of Star Trek the Animated Series. It's Larry Niven's The Soft Weapon and the animated episode The Slaver Weapon.
Yeah, love it. Love it. This is a classic situation that we've encountered.
You know, yeah, and I was thinking, like, it's perfect. Our job is done here. I think we just, like, killed the podcast because we literally found a story that was the literal inspiration for this episode. Like, the writer himself got a screen credit for just, you know, filing the serial numbers off his own story and putting the names Spock, Uhura, and Sulu in. Yeah. And so I'm not sure how much work we'll have to do here today, but we'll definitely do our best.
We've come pretty close. We had the old ball game, and Take Me Out to the House Suite was close.
That's true, and that's
Same
a sneaky
bits.
one. Yeah, because I don't think people know that Ira Beer is just resubmitting his own script.
There aren't a lot of Trek episodes though where they say up front this is based on an already existing story.
Yeah,
I don't think there are any, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll get into it a little later. I don't know a ton about the career of Larry Niven, but I don't think that he has a ton of screen credits. And so this is basically, you know, like one of his only screen credits, adapting his own work to the animated series. So I guess we'll probably get into it. But I was wondering, was this his idea or their idea? Well, there is a story about that, and we can, basically they were always looking for scripts for the animated series, and I think it was Dorothy Fontana, who was a big fan of Niven at the time that they were making the animated series, and they were looking for people to do scripts, and she told Gene Roddenberry, hey, let's get Larry Niven to do one, and he submitted two ideas that were both just not, like, fitting for Star Trek or for a kid's show. And I guess Gene said, hey, what about this story, The Soft Weapon? And would you want to, just kind of make it a Star Trek story? And I think that's kind of where they went from there.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay. They got it done.
So we'll get into more detail as we go on in the show. But first, the news. And I got to tell you, there's just not a lot of Trek news right now. You think they're sandbagging the news until Mission Chicago happens in a week or two?
I don't know. Is this supposed to be like a really big event where big news happens? I don't know.
Well, it is the official Star Trek convention now that it's moved out of Las Vegas, Chicago.
So this is the one.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it won't be in Chicago every year. Like, it's going to move around. But this is the official branded Star Trek convention. So maybe they're waiting to drop big revelations and news about shows like Strange New Worlds and things like that. But yeah, not a lot of news going on today.
Well, I can't wait to be front and center on the ground floor of the news. I feel like a journalist, getting the scoops.
Yeah, front and center. Shoulder to shoulder and front to back with many other people who hopefully are all vaccinated. Yeah,
oh, no.
I'm trying to think of, like, what's the, like, I know that, like, you don't have to wear a mask, I guess, if you're vaccinated and boosted and everything, but, like, what's, like, a Star Trek-esque mask that I could get away with wearing? Like, don't the Romulans or the Vulcans wear like kind of weird face masks or something like that? What's my cosplay excuse for protecting myself?
You don't really get a lot of cool you could go Breen
full
mode.
On Breen. Yeah.
Get the
light
voice
up,
changer too.
You get the voice changer. Yeah. One hot dog, please. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully everybody will be safe there. Have you been keeping up on Picard? Have you been watching Picard?
No, I haven't since we watched and talked about the first episode on Discoverage. Yeah. I just it's another one where I'll probably catch up when there's a decent chunk of them or something, or maybe I come on another one of your episodes. I just had a lot going on, so I just haven't had a chance.
I can see it. I don't know. It's the first 3 episodes were really strong. And then, of course, this last episode was the fourth one. The fifth one is tomorrow when we're recording this. And it's already starting to... It's like the first three episodes are kind of like the new pilot for a streaming show. You know, on a broadcast show in the old days, you'd make a pilot, which is usually a totally separate production from the production of the series itself. You know, you're shooting this pilot. It's sort of like a little movie that TV executives decide whether they want to go forward or not. And then if you get the green light, then you get everybody back together and you make more. Mm-hmm. And with streaming now, you don't really have to do a pilot. Like, it's already a put series where they've ordered X amount of episodes. But I think they still kind of treat the first 2, usually 3 hours, or at least episodes of the show, as where they're going to establish the world of the show and the sort of raison d'etre for it existing. And so they tend to be the most consistent. And a lot of times people complain. I know when Discovery came out, like the first 2 episodes, they aired back to back, like on the first night, the premiere night of Discovery. And people were like, well, the first episode's good, but it just ends in a cliffhanger. And it's like, well, yeah, that's like, because the whole thing is supposed to be kind of a feature, you know, feature length. Right, and I think the first 3 episodes of Picard were really strong, and I felt like they set up the world well and they knew where they were going. And then I thought the 4th episode was a huge drop off in quality. And also the series, I guess this was always in the offing, but the series has started to go in kind of a goofy direction. Like, I felt like the stakes were really set in the first 3 episodes, and then we've got a new angle on it. And then, I don't know if this isn't a spoiler, the shots are out there, but I've seen shots of Brent Spiner returning as a character. I'm assuming a Soong of the 21st century, and so it's, you know, like, what? Yep,
I'm okay with that. They've been doing that for a while now anyway. I suppose. Why stop?
Yeah. The Soong family are like the Zeligs, of the Star Trek universe, and so I just don't want the Goofy to take over. They had such a strong start, and it was just really intriguing. And I hope they're not going to do Goofy stuff again.
I did like that first episode, but it doesn't feel like appointment television for me. I'm like, it's not like can't miss. I got to see it. I'm like, I can wait. I don't know. I can play a little bit more Elden Ring or whatever. And then, that's what I mean by I got a lot going on, you know?
Right. Yeah. I'm really busy right now. Elden Ring. Oh boy. I got to get that at some point. I was faced with the PS5 choice for me was Elden Ring or Horizon Zero Dawn, and I got Horizon Zero Dawn, but I also had immediate buyer's remorse. Yeah, in that, you know, it's a strong game. I did like the first one, and it definitely promises to have hours and hours of play ahead of me. But it is something that I've seen before, and I hear people talking about Elden Ring, and you have to subtract some of the just the From Software fanboyishness of it. But people say that it is it's just really engrossing, and maybe would be the first game that would keep me from wanting to throw my controller out the window because I died one more goddamn time.
Yeah, I think you know what? I think you would like it because I'm not like a FromSoft player, so that's my pitch to you. Is I think you would like it because it works for me. Because you know what? Anytime I encounter a boss that kills me, like I'll try it a few times. I'm like, and I'll, wow, it really whooped me, and I get a kick out of that. How hard it whooped me, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna ride my horse around somewhere else, and then like 8 hours later, I'm like, let's go try that boss again, and then There's one that's like the main boss of one particular dungeon, and I beat it on my first try when I came back. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. You just go get super powerful and then come back and stomp. I don't know whether that's going to be like Endgame when you run out of stuff to kill, but yeah, it's a chill game, I think, for how stressful it gets at times.
Well, maybe that's the way to go for playing that game. Like, I don't mind roguelikes. For people who don't play video games, I don't know why you're still listening to this, but the idea of a game where you are meant to play over and over again, and so you start off something, you're going to die, you're going to get killed. That's okay. That's part of the process. And over time, you kind of develop your skills and you sort of make yourself more powerful. And for some games, like I'm cool with it. Like I have not gotten very far in Hades, but I keep playing it because somehow, for all the times I've died, they keep coming up with new dialogue and new interactions between the characters. And maybe when I finally exhaust all those, I'll start to get pissed at the game. But the other day, I loaded up a new game called Tunic, which
I'm dying to play that.
is being praised for its Zelda vibes. And but unlike Zelda, it's got a roguelike element to it. And I got a little bit into it, and I was getting ready to kill a boss, and I died and lost all my stuff, and I was just like, fuck, god damn it, I'm not, I don't care, I'm not playing this. I've already played Legend of Zelda. Screw this, I'm not playing it. So
I don't know. I kind of yearn for some like getting killed. I do love getting killed.
There's your pull quote. I love getting killed. Give me fame.
Yeah. But I get the frustration for sure. I think overall, though, what's nice in this is you don't really lose anything other than like your XP, which is also like your currency, and so you just got to be a little bit strategic about like, okay, I'm about to go into a hard area, like let's try to like maybe get my level up a little bit or spend this, and so that way if I die, I'm not too disappointed. And they're pretty liberal with like the amount of checkpoints and stuff they have. So I've only a couple times had that like disappointing feeling of like, oh, I lost a lot of XP, but otherwise it's like I'm usually like feeling pretty good. Like, okay, I'll go cash in right now.
Yeah. I'm the kind of person who will play a game, and as you develop, you get points, you can raise your stats. I always squirrel the points until I hit something that's like, well, clearly you need to be able to double jump here. And then, okay, then I'll spend it on double jump. And so for me, with the From Software games, trying to turn your souls into upgraded weapons or new stats right away, I always forget or just hold off on doing that. And then when I do lose the souls, I will kill myself a million times trying to get all those souls back.
Yeah.
I just need to learn a new way to play, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's just maybe just different things click for different people too.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a metal dinosaur fighter. That's maybe what I am.
That's cool too.
A dark solar. Well. Let's get into our featured subject for today's episode. Star Trek has become a place, a sci-fi destination in its own right, but it stands in many ways on the shoulders of the sci-fi worlds and concepts created before it. Worlds created by authors who weren't limited by Gene Roddenberry's optimistic but pacifistic views of humanity's future. Worlds where vicious alien races wrestled with each other for control of the galaxy's resources, and humanity was left to their own devices to carve out their place in the cosmos. One such world is the setting of Known Space by sci-fi author Larry Niven. Known Space is just that, the part of our galaxy reachable from Earth, familiar yet torn by war and littered with dangerous artifacts from precursor civilizations. One Known Space story deals directly with the archaic and arcane artifacts from the galaxy's previous inhabitants, whose discovery could herald an important new tool for civilization or a deadly implement that could spell centuries of intergalactic war. It's The Soft Weapon by Larry Niven.
First Officer's Log, Stardate 4187.3. The Enterprise shuttlecraft Copernicus is en route to Starbase 25 with an important cargo. A slaver stasis box discovered by archaeologists on the planet Kazin.
This is the Trader's Claw calling Mr. Sulu. We have the female prisoner. Will you bargain, or must we take harsh action?
Not interested.
I am as the Falcon left me, with 2 ribs broken. I have not set them nor bandaged myself. He may conceivably kill me.
Yeah, and it's gonna be difficult, I think, to separate these two sections, because I feel like they are so similar, these two
We're
stories.
gonna do our best, yeah. And I think that we can do that by spotlighting Larry Niven as an author here. I have to confess that I am not super familiar with Larry Niven's work. He's always been kind of a blind spot for me in my sort of sci-fi education. I'll say that he is probably best known for his book Ringworld.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I've not read it. Yeah.
Which won the Nebula and the Hugo and the Locus Awards in the early 70s, and a few other short stories that also were Hugo Award winning. And he's also written for The Outer Limits. He has a TV show for that, so another screen credit. And he wrote for the DC Comics character Green Lantern at one point.
Oh, okay. That's fitting, I guess.
Yeah, and Ringworld is probably most familiar to, speaking of video games, as the inspiration for the setting of Halo, the idea of the Halo.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Larry Niven is the first guy to ever think of a Ringworld type habitat, but he certainly is the first to get a Nebula Award for writing a book about it. So, and that book and his other, most of his other stories are set in this idea of known space, this universe.
That's what kind of made this the most fascinating to me, was that, like, it's this whole extended universe or whatever, but then it's also like we're gonna bring that into Star Trek, so like now all of a sudden, like, it's like they don't change the names of like that, like the alien race that he brought or anything like that. So that's really what's fascinating, was like, not that like, okay, like Arena is similar to Arena in a lot of ways, but like literally it's like a weird like like multiverse type situation,
Yeah, and I have no idea how it works. Like when you have a book and then you are basically giving, I don't know how many books the Kzinti are in the Known Space series, but you're kind of giving permission. Did he say like this is just a one-off, or are they now technically part of Star Trek and available to use? I know that there were plans to put them in a 5th season of Enterprise if Enterprise had gotten that far.
Wow.
And there has been, I mean, everything's been on Lower Decks at this point, but there were like some Kzinti background characters on Lower Decks. And then, of course, in that one episode of Star Trek Picard, which we talked about on this show, Riker does mention that they've had trouble with the Kzinti. So I don't know if that's just them kind of like peeing on it, to sort of like claim it for something in the future, or if they have access to it. Because, Larry Niven's, he's old, but he's still around. So are you, giving away a chance to produce something in the future? I know that some Hulu or some network is working on a Ringworld series right now.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on, who ends up holding the rights for it and like how much they want to pursue that, right? Because I feel like if it's probably like a guy, I don't know how Larry Niven feels, but maybe if he's like, oh yeah, I did that cartoon episode, sure,
right, yeah,
but
where's the money? Come on.
Right. But then if he ever like passed or whatever, the rights passed to someone else, like I feel like if it went to like Hulu or whoever, then I feel like it gets probably even more locked down,
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, Larry Niven is, I mean, if you screw over Larry Niven, you're going to, hear about it from the entire industry, I'm sure. But yeah, just sort of, offhandedly, because, I talked about like the legends of sci-fi, at the beginning of the show. Larry was basically getting his start around the time that Star Trek was on. And so he was still kind of up and coming. Like he hadn't published Ringworld at the time that he was, or Ringworld had just come out at the time that he was writing for animated series. So at that point, it might have seemed like, yeah, what the hell? I'll put my big cats in your little show. But I bet it would be a lot different nowadays. I'll have my lawyer talk to your lawyer and so on and so forth before these little kitty cats show up in your show.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know what to say other than that's just like really weird.
There's a writer named Jimmy Diggs who was a writer for Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager, and a friend of Larry Niven, and he has lobbied for a long time to get the Kzinti into Star Trek proper. he was originally an intern for the writers' room on TNG, and would always push like, let's do the Kzinti, let's get the Kzinti in there. And, you know, of course it never really like came to fruition, but he like wrote his own screenplay on spec for a CGI animated film that would feature the Kzinti, and he's become like the kind of current proponent of trying to get the cat aliens into Star Trek.
I guess they kind of got the doctor on Lower Decks is like a cat.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
maybe they're just like, we're going to phase them out and retcon them or something.
Yeah, and of course there's MRS in the animated series. You know, there are other Cation characters. I think technically,
right,
in some backward hallway of continuity, the Kazin are supposed to be like a sister species or like an offshoot of the Cations to sort of like make that make sense.
It is really cool. Like they are really interesting. I think they're just not what I expected. I guess, especially just like. That it's like, oh, you have these like weird, messed up telepaths who are like bummed out or whatever. It's like, it's really one of those like out there kind of sci-fi races. So I kind of appreciated it just on at face value on how like strange it is.
Yeah, I love how they describe in the story that the Kzinti telepath is like. Not happy that he's a telepath. It's not a good life. And
yeah.
I think they translated that well to the episode because you see all these cat guys and then one cat guy comes out and he's like, yeah, he's just not having a good time.
I love that guy. Yeah.
Doesn't like his job at all. Larry Niven is, of course, known for Known Space and the Ring World. He's also known for Niven's Laws, which are basically like a set of kind of theorems or adages that he publishes occasionally about sci-fi and sort of the world of sci-fi, how the universe works, really. And some of them are things like never fire a laser at a mirror. That's a good one.
Okay, yeah.
Ethics change with technology. I think he's got one that says like there is no cause so noble you won't find a fool following it. Giving up freedom for security is beginning to look naive, which is based on a quote from Benjamin Franklin. So he's clearly like
he's doing his own Ben Franklin thing, right?
Yeah, sort of like his own Poor Richard's Almanac for space. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
He's clearly a thoughtful guy.
I thought it was going to be like a set of like rules for writing sci-fi. I guess it kind of is, right?
I suppose, yeah. Or more just like practicality, like in the world of sci-fi, I think that's something that sets his work apart from Gene Roddenberry, because Gene Roddenberry constantly maintained that like once we fix all these problems, there's not going to be any problems. And I agree with him to a point, but many more skilled writers and creators than me have commented on the fact that it makes it kind of hard to write a story then if everybody's happy and sharing candy and stuff. And so I think Larry Niven's work is defined by those conflicts still existing and, races, not being perfect and meeting things and wanting to feel superior and sort of being in conflict with each other because of that. I watched a short video on YouTube about the Known Space universe and its timeline, and it goes through 3 billion years of the timeline.
Oh my gosh.
Fascinating. You have to remember, of course, the slavers, the titular slavers of the slaver weapon existed like 1.5 billion years ago. So you kind of get that already. But, and they're set in like a few different periods. Some of his stories are set in kind of the near future, kind of like right now, early 21st century, up till like the 22nd or 23rd century, where man is going out into space. Then there's the Man-Kzin Wars, where humanity fights against Kzinti. And then there's the much later books of like the 31st century and onward, where things start to get a little rough for people in the galaxy.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty interesting world. Like, I kind of want to check out some of those. Like, I do just love I don't know, I love that concept. I think, like, it is cool, too, just seeing, like, we have very actually distinct kind of these major races in Star Trek, but it is cool to like one that's like they're cats, they're not just like people with like weird foreheads. It's like now they're big cats, that's fun on its own. It kind of seems out of place. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm so used to, the TV kind of budgets they have, but it is so out there for even Star Trek, I feel like.
Something that's fascinating too about his universe is that, you've got this race, the slaver race, that sort of left all these artifacts around or were around a long time ago, but they are themselves kind of the explanation for why so many races are similar. You have weird foreheads, like you said. The episode "The Chase" of TNG sort of addresses that with a precursor species. But the slavers had been almost all over the galaxy, and before they were destroyed in a war with one of their client slave races, they had seeded many worlds with their like food products and like their yeast, which they ate for food. And so when they were gone, this yeast, had was the common like genetic ancestor basically of humanoid races. Like it over a billion years, evolution happened, and so that's why so many races kind of look the same and can interact with each other. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I want to see the interaction between them and the people from the chase.
Right.
If we're to believe this episode of the animated series is canon, they could make a prequel show that's set way in the past and see how these guys got along.
That would be that'd be a real. I've joked about Lower Decks kind of being the Family Guy of Star Trek, but that'd be a real inside joke for Star Trek fans. Having a bunch of like one-eyed green lizard guys, fighting the bald-headed guys from the Chase or something like that, being like, "No, I was here first. No, I was." Yeah, as far as the canonicity of the original the animated series goes, Lower Decks itself has done a lot to make it canon. I think a lot of episodes are being brought into canon. This is one that is rough, and I'm not sure will ever be fully in canon simply because of what we've talked about, like the origin of humanoid life in our galaxy. But yeah, I mean, like I'd love to see more Kzinti in the future. I think that could be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a ring world. I'd like to see habitats like that. We did see Dyson rings in a recent episode of Star Trek Discovery, but yeah, just a full-on ring world would be cool.
That would be cool, and get the, and they got the Halo show over there on Paramount. So
that's right. Yeah,
we can make it happen. Let's get Master Chief.
They have these just dumbass commercials, for Paramount Plus where they get Thomas Lennon from Reno 911 and they get Michael Burnham and they get young Sheldon all to like hang out on a mountain or something. And then for a recent one, they had Master Chief and I don't know, I think maybe Spock or something like that from Strange New Worlds. And so like technically in Paramount Plus promotional canon, they exist in the same universe, but yeah, who knows? Now that the rights are owned by Paramount, at least for TV, maybe we'll see a crossover between Star Trek and Halo. Everything's going to be one eventually when Disney owns it all.
They're eventually going to have no choice but to do it.
Yeah, we'll just have to find a way to make that make sense.
We can't keep up with the Spider-Man hanging out with this other guy, so we gotta put Master Chief in there.
Right. Turning to the story, The Soft Weapon, and Larry Niven's writing style, we have read some older sci-fi for the show. And something that I like about his style is that I find it like eminently readable and yet still a little, how would I characterize it? Still with the feel of classic sci-fi, but a little more literate than Isaac Asimov stuff, which can be very profound but is often dry and a little sexist, or Heinlein's kind of exacting prose that sometimes leaves out kind of some of the emotions. Like I found myself really rooting for the characters in the Slow Weapon.
Yeah. They're like unique and like distinct too. Just like it was just kind of interesting to like the puppeteer character or whatever. Like just trying to like get in that mindset was really strange to me. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally know what you mean with the style. It did have that thing where like it was kind of funny to me because like there is a large chunk of it, and it's in both where like it's just kind of them watching some guys fuck around with a weapon, you know, like what does this one do?
Yeah.
And like he's very like descriptive and stuff like that, and I think that's cool. That's like what's fun about sci-fi. But sometimes I'm like, this is funny to me. Like just I don't know. I both liked it, but it was silly that it was like, okay, that now this dial is a laser, you know, and it all pays off in the end. But it's, I don't know. There was just something funny about that.
But there was like a suspense to it as well, because you didn't know every time they it's like a loot box, you know. They want something really great, and they keep sort of like rolling the dice, you know, going from setting to setting, and they don't know if they're going to hit a setting that like melts them all, melts their bodies, or blows up the whole planet, or what it's going to do. Every time they roll those dice, they're putting themselves in danger.
You just made me think of a modern adaptation as like a YouTube unboxing. Like, hey guys, it's me, Chuff Captain, and today we're opening up the Slaver box. Hopefully it's got something good in it.
What's up? I will eat the bones of my enemies. Now today we're looking at this Tucknip box. Yeah. That was cool. The star that they go to in the beginning of the show, and the story and the show, Beta Lyrae, is a real star. And I don't think they knew at the time of this writing, but we know now that it's actually a trinary star system. It's a binary pair orbited by a third star, but in the story here, it's a binary. And I thought that it was a very interesting backdrop for the episode, and the idea that we don't get just in this story, we don't get a sense of what humans are like. They seem like they're just, you know, like humans basically in this future, but the fact that they want to go and sightsee and enjoy like this amazing like star formation, I thought that was interesting. And then I thought it was also interesting that the Kzinti are like, these idiots are going to come look at this star formation. So we've set our trap here, and we've been here for like 40 years trying to trap people, and finally we've gotten somebody.
Yeah, it was like that was what struck me too. Very patient type trap. But
you'd have to be. Yeah.
They kind of came off like that would work for them, you know, like they just had that determination almost.
Yeah. And the story does a good job of setting up the stakes here, because it explains, you know, what the slaver boxes are. It explains that they are these mysterious boxes, and they're just found in random places. And, you know, when you open them up, it could be nothing. It could be, you know, an amazing scientific advancement, or it could be a devastating weapon that could completely change the course of, you know, life in the galaxy. So having these guys just sit in one place for decades and decades, just waiting to get a shot at one of these boxes, it makes sense.
It is cool, like just that concept of like it's so ancient and old, you know. So kind of like we were saying earlier about it being a loot box, is like there is something fascinating of like looking, because I don't know if I could look at something, you know, like 40 years old and figure out how it works, you know. Now that they're talking about this ancient billion-year-old technology or whatever, that's I don't know, that's a cool concept.
Yeah, and when they open up the box, you know, they take these kind of random objects out of it. It's a little weird that there's like a piece of meat like in the box, but I think that helps the reader understand that like no time passes like in these boxes, you know, like this, whatever this piece of meat is and whatever reason it was put in there, like it you know, 0 seconds have passed since it went into the box and has now come out.
Yeah, I was a bit thrown at first. I was like, is this plot relevant?
Is this plot meat?
Yeah, like are they gonna be later like, the meat is the key to the setting, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes the meat is just meat.
Well, that's what kind of makes it even more interesting. And like a loot box, like you said, like you open it up and it's like trying to piece things together. Like who had this? Like why did they put this in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes you wonder, I guess.
And it's cool that, like, you know, even though these people are long dead. They're billions of years dead. And they were completely alien to us. There is still, it's psychology that sort of wins the day. Like, it's the fact that Jason, the hero, can sort of like reason out, and it translates really well to Spock later in the episode. He can reason out that like, if this is like a dangerous weapon and it fell into enemy hands, I know what I would do. I would make sure that it had some kind of sabotage, some self-destruct thing that would destroy the enemy if they accessed it. And so, anticipating that, he's able to sort of goad them into checking it out and then, destroying themselves.
Yeah. I love that. Like the bomb, like using it as the bomb. That was like a good twist. There's like, for a while, I was like, I'm not sure like how this is going to go. It just seems like them, like I said, watching them, what could they possibly do to get out of this? And I like the idea of using it against them was really fun.
Yeah, you want it? Go ahead, play with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's be careful what you wish for. This technology is maybe more than you can handle.
Yeah, it's a real Wonder Woman 1984 all over again.
Oh, God. I had almost forgotten about that. Completely. The other day I was thinking about, I can't remember why I was thinking about it, but I was thinking about Pedro Pascal in that movie and how I thought that, for all that movie's not so great, I thought that he was good in the film. And so, yeah, I guess I did think about it recently, but God, that was almost out of my mind.
Almost a year ago, yeah.
Something that I like about this story, and something that doesn't happen too much in Star Trek, mostly because, we have to focus on our ship and our vital characters. But I like the idea of the galaxy being old, not being young, and that humanity, for all of our advances, even going from, say, the 24th century or the 23rd century to the 32nd century, is nothing. It's a wink of the eye for the galaxy. And no matter how advanced we think that we have gotten, there are races before us who have gotten much more advanced than that, and there will be races after us who will become more advanced, and just sort of placing us, in the grand scale of the evolution of the galaxy. And there are races in Star Trek who fulfill that role, like the Iconians, the Takan Empire, and every once in a while, this, because Picard is an archaeologist, we run into this, but every once in a while we'll have them examining ancient ruins from a civilization. But generally we don't. It's hard to do socially conscious stories with dead races, so we don't tend to do much with those in Star Trek. But I do like, in like extended media, you'll get that sometimes, where they're exploring some long departed races, technology, or environs.
Yeah, they've found good ways to like hit upon it, and I, like you said, I like how it adds a sense of scale. It's not just like we've all, like us, the Klingons, the Romulans, we've all like generally kind of gotten to the same point. No, it adds more texture to the world that there's like those ancient races, but then also like there's some that it's like, I don't know, I think of like the Q, they almost have this implication of like they were something more like us maybe before, we don't know.
Possibly.
There's like a couple races like that pop up too. So it's like there's dead, the dead ones, and then ones that have kind of moved beyond a point that we even comprehend them as like us ever,
Yeah. I was talking about this with a guest on Enterprising Individuals a little while back. Just the idea that, for a spacefaring galaxy-based setting, it is a little strange that all the races that we see in Star Trek are essentially on the same technological footing. And I'm sure there's plenty of explanations, like in universe, like espionage and technology sharing and that sort of thing. But generally, you don't see that. Like in something like Babylon 5, a competitor to Star Trek and DS9, there's like wide gaps in between what the races have as far as technology goes. And so if there's a race that has like more advanced technology, they have like a bully pulpit from which to pursue their kind of political ends. And then the other races have to sort of like either team up against them or go, okay, you get what you want. But in Star Trek, and again, I think that this is just lubrication for the kind of stories that we want to tell, everybody's got basically the same stuff. Like the Romulans and Klingons have cloaking devices, but they don't always work. And everybody's got transporters, everybody's got shields and torpedoes. And everybody's kind of on an equal footing.
I think they do, like, sometimes, like, lean into it. Like, I think just, like, when they first introduced the Borg, it does seem like, I don't, like, they are kind of unlike
We're having
anything.
trouble with this. Yeah.
Or, like, I think of when the Jem'Hadar first show up and, like, the guy steps through, like, the containment field.
Yeah.
They sort of make it seem like, okay, the Dominion's a little beyond us. But I think they kind of show, like, they adapt and, like, eventually catch up, I guess, but there's never just like they completely wipe out some other civilization,
Yeah, I think that is a good segue into talking about the puppeteers, which are Niven's invention here in his story and are a fascinating race, and they're particularly fascinating not just for their sort of interesting, physiological configuration, but also for the fact that they are an old species that's been around for a long time, and as such, they seem to have evolved out of a lot of the tendencies that we have as humans, or that the Kzinti even have. They are totally pacifistic, and that might be because they began as like a herd, race earlier in their evolution. But I get the feeling that it's just as much, we've kind of done all that. Maybe we had our like conquest phase, maybe we had our exploration phase, but we're kind of through all that, and now we have all these kind of new rules and ideas and things that we follow because we're kind of doing something else here in the galaxy. We're not like the heroes of a sci-fi story. We've got our own sort of agenda that we're pursuing.
Yeah, it does feel similar to how, like, they sometimes try to present the Vulcans, but, like, it way more, like, leans into that, I feel like.
Yeah. It's fascinating how, like, I got to give Roddenberry credit. I don't know how much of a Larry Niven fan he was, but if he is the one that pegged that this would be a good story, he must have seen the clear parallels between having two humans, having the puppeteer, and that mapping onto two crew members, and having Spock as the Vulcan, being the vegetarian pacifist, race in Star Trek. It's a good eye.
What's interesting, I guess, for the puppeteers is they refer to them as like cowardly.
Yeah.
And
which is colored by by their human perceptions.
Right. Yeah. But I guess that makes me feel like it does sort of. I don't know. It makes it seem like it's more, like you say, like maybe where they evolve from, something more genetic where like or I guess it's already kind of explained at this point, but like Vulcans actually kind of have this more like brutal, dark past where they were more like humans. And I don't know. We don't really know in the puppeteer backstory, but I kind of just
there's a lot of known space books. I bet there's a book out there that talks about the origins of the puppeteers, and maybe they were like that. I don't know.
I'd like to
they
see
they can kick real good.
Yeah, that like I think that really made that effect in the story way stronger in the short story. That it was like I said, someone who they kind of look more as more innately cowardly, and like also having these like talons or whatever, and like digging into him, as opposed to like Spock like drop kicked him or whatever.
Yeah.
Really made it seem more brutal, I guess.
Are you a Space Ghost fan?
The Coast to Coast, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get when they were describing the Kzinti, did you get a flash of Brack at all?
Describing them?
Yeah, just like, the orange fur, the kind of triangular head, and being cat-like. I just thought of Brack.
Okay. I was like looking up pictures of them and like some of the novels. I could kind of see that. Yeah. That'd be awesome. Brack is tight.
Being telepathic. Yeah. I just felt like whoever created Brack might have been, cribbing off of Larry Niven.
Sure. Yeah. I can see that.
As the story goes on, of course, we get this conflict between the Chuff captain and his crew, and between Jason and his companions. And something that I liked about this story and a lot of sci-fi in particular is I like it when there is like I like the clash of ideals. Obviously, I'm a Star Trek fan, but I like the weird accounting and like the sort of like score tallying that you do. When Jason, when Nessus, kicks the guy and he drops a weapon and Jason picks it up and they both run off. They're hiding and they're trying to figure out, okay, now what do we do? Like, how do we survive? Like are they going to call, friends to help? They probably won't call friends to help. Okay. If my suit gives me water, so I'll starve to death in a month, and your suit will keep you alive for 2 months. So can we stay alive for like this long? And like, if they use their ship to try to find us from orbit, like, will they be able to shoot at us? And can I shoot at them? And I just like that kind of fatalistic, like, all right, get everything together. What do we have? How do we get out of this? That sort of tension and suspense that is in the story.
They sort of had that same sort of like, let's talk this out too. And they were like, trying to connect the dots on like specifically like what type of weapon is this? They kind of use like a bit of like logic to kind of put it all together. It really is kind of like a story about, for me, just about like some guys like solving a puzzle. Like
totally, yeah. And Jason's like, okay, but like we can't let them get this weapon. Like even if I die, and Nessus is like, yeah, I don't have any options for you. It does seem like you're going to die. I'm sorry about that. And while they're trying to figure this out, like the Kazinti, figure out, well, it's an ice world, so we can like, use our heat exhaust from our engines to like, basically swamp them like in the ice, and then they'll get frozen in there. I just love all the little technical bits like that.
Yeah, and it made it kind of intense. Like him getting like frozen in there a little bit was pretty scary.
Yeah,
it was good.
And trying to figure out like, okay, is there a setting that I can use at this point that's gonna like get me out of this?
Yeah, really tense there. I can see how I feel like that might, for some people, it's like what. It's like it really does sometimes. Like I said, guys solving a puzzle. It's like, okay, like what am I supposed to? What am I feeling here? Because it is a lot of like, let's talk this out. How does this gun work? What's going on?
How does this gun work?
Yeah, you just don't see a lot of stories like that. I guess that's what like sci-fi can specialize in a lot more, though.
Yeah, like that's that's one of the. I think that it's not good if people only come to sci-fi for that, but that's one of the attractions of sci-fi is having an elevated reality, stakes beyond just emotional stakes, or it reminds me of like, how the cell phone has ruined a lot of suspense stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where, oh no, we're lost by this cabin in the woods. No, I got GPS. It's fine. Oh no, we'll never get a hold of her in time before the killer gets there. No, she's got an iPhone. It's fine. And so, you can continue to create those disparities even with advanced technology. You can still say, oh, there's a field blocking this, so this thing that normally can drive the drama can now be cut off, and can drive the lack of it can drive the suspense instead.
That like that has like it's like a double-edged sword, because sometimes you can use that to drive it, but sometimes it feels like, oh, we just kind of gotta like explain it away so we can make like the real movie we want to make.
Yeah, or just it's it's a period piece. There's a lot of like indie horror films that are being set in like the 70s and 80s now, so you can just get away from that.
Yeah, stuff. You might as well just do that if you're not gonna like, if you're gonna just like wave it away, Plus, like, who wants to watch somebody on their phone for a whole movie? I can do that by looking at the row in front of me. Wasn't that that John Cho movie?
Oh,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. I guess.
I'm not saying that should be a genre, but
there's what was it, the movie where Ryan Reynolds gets buried alive? Finally.
Oh my god. Someone was just talking about that recently, and I did not know this existed until like a week ago.
And so he's on a phone the whole time. There's the Colin Farrell movie where he's in the phone booth the whole time. And then there's a movie called Locke starring Tom Hardy, where it's literally him on a 2-hour drive, from one city to another. And he just talks to, he makes like 12 phone calls to different people.
Sounds great.
Which is not a... Well...
They should have called it hands-free.
Hands-free. Yeah, right. He's Bluetooth. It's not a bad movie, but like I did not know that, like the premise going in. And so about a half an hour in, I got real shifty in my seat. Like, is this the whole thing? And then it kind of, after a while, you're like, okay, I get it.
Were they tense phone calls?
Oh, yeah. No, there's a whole emotional arc for the character.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah,
Just
right.
Driving up to see you.
If you know the name of the movie you'd like to see. Yeah. Anything else you can think of? We didn't really go through the whole plot because I guess we'll just cover it when we get to the slaver weapon. But any other comments?
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I would say like this story works a little bit more just because it feels like, well, I guess we'll talk about it here, but in the cartoon, it's more like they kind of retrofit a few things that aren't. They feel a bit more unique and like distinct in here. That it's like, okay, yeah, it's Uhura and Spock. Yeah. It's kind of like fitting things that don't 100% mesh, but it overall also works as a Star Trek story anyway. But yeah, so reading this, I could already see. It was kind of like, I guess, when we watched Forbidden Planet, where it was like, I can already see this working as a Star Trek thing. And then, so yeah, going into the episode, I was like, yep, that was pretty much what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. As I was kind of watching both of them, I read the story halfway, then I watched the episode, and then I read the rest of the story. And it's hard to like ruin a short story, I guess. But like, as I read the story, I was like, oh yeah, this is just, I know exactly how this is going to end because it's playing out like the exact same way.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's
if
what he was hired to do. Yeah, it's not broke. He totally fixes it.
You're right.
Well, let's take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more backtracking.
Hello, I'm Mikan Hana.
And I'm Caliban.
I am a huge Sailor Moon fan. I've been a Moonie since the beginning. I've seen every episode, every movie. I've read all the manga. I love it.
I've got a head full of bad wiring, and I've never seen a single episode.
Do you want to join the wonderful world of Sailor Moon?
Okay. Enter laughing. It's hard to believe that was us. It feels like ancient history.
We recorded that a few minutes ago.
Ancient history, but now that I'm a Sailor Moon expert.
You're not an expert?
But I'm trying.
Every week on Sailor Noob, we talk about a new episode of the original Sailor Moon series.
It's all new to me.
And I'm a little more seasoned. I've been a Japanese language student, and I've lived in Japan.
And you use your experiences to talk about the food, fashion, and culture of every episode of Sailor Moon.
What do you do again?
Share in the wonder of a classic anime series.
Good enough. Sailor Noob is a great companion for first-time watchers, and it is a fun hit of nostalgia for the experienced fan.
You can catch the show every Friday wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr, posting all things Sailor Moon.
One day I shall be the master.
Let's just get through this series first.
Okay. Okay, we're back. It's time to talk about the Trek side of this equation. Star Trek the Animated Series was, like the series that spawned it, ahead of its time. In our current era, where the animation industry is worth around $250 billion annually, making a cartoon of your popular property is a no-brainer. But at the time, Star Trek the Animated Series was created to capitalize on the too-soon-canceled original series' success in syndication, and seen as a way to keep Trek present in people's minds, but for a much smaller price tag. Part of that price tag meant hiring notoriously thrifty animation studio Funimation to produce the series, and the corners cut in its production are often obvious. But despite the show's humble trappings, great care was given to the scripts and storylines of the series, and many of the original series writers returned to create new adventures for the crew of the Enterprise. Some new voices were added to Trek as well, like budding sci-fi writer Larry Niven, who adapted his short story The Soft Weapon for the Star Trek universe, and in doing so created some fascinating and chilling implications for the galaxy of the Federation in the episode The Slaver Weapon.
What would this be?
I have no idea. It is generating power.
There is a grid. It may be another communications device. But that seems redundant.
It has a Kazenti frightened.
The Kzinti have legends of weapons haunted by their owners.
Could it be a voice-activated mechanism?
No. It appears to be conversing with them. A reasoning computer that small.
How long has it been since you were turned off?
I do not know. When I am off, I have no sense of passing time.
What is the last thing you remember?
We were on a mission. I may not tell you of it unless you know certain code words.
If you could describe the positions of the stars in your sector, we would know how much time has passed since then.
Without certain code words, I may not describe our location.
One of the settings on this weapon was a total conversion beam. We saw it. Tell us how to find it.
Twist my widdershins until you reach the null position. Then...
They've got it.
There must be something we can do.
Most peculiar.
Star Trek The Animated Series was the first Trek property to win an Emmy Award.
Oh, okay. What'd they get?
So
like
take that, TOS.
best children's something? I don't know.
Well, it was a daytime Emmy, which is an Emmy, and yeah, it was for best children's series.
Okay, shout out. I mean, I do appreciate it. Like, I think we say this every time, but I do like that it's like, it is a kid's show, but it's also like, it's not compromising the Star Trek-ness of it at all, I don't think. It's like, they always get into like some really weird thing that's almost even weirder than Star Trek is at times. And
yeah, that's one of the things that I like about it. In being, maybe it's because it's definitely because it's animation. You can show things that you can't afford to, like cat aliens, like the life support belts, or giant people, or magical devils, and
right.
alien worlds.
Maybe that's how they all are.
Bird people. Yeah. And that's all cool, but like the implications of all that stuff is really cool as well. I'm not sure that this would have been the way to go, but there's a Tribbles episode and it introduces a Tribble killer. There's like a breed of animal that eats Tribbles specifically. And so
I gotta watch
they
that.
sort of set that loose to kill all the Tribbles. Yeah. But this episode has a few distinctions about it. It's the second of 6 Star Trek productions in which Leonard Nimoy appears without William Shatner. The first was, of course, TOS, The Cage, the first unaired pilot. And then he appears with William Shatner every time they're on screen until, of course, TNG, where he has a couple appearances by himself, and then the Kelvin Universe films. But yeah, otherwise, this does not feature Captain Kirk. It does not feature the Enterprise either.
That was strange.
It's the first episode to not feature the Enterprise or a ship named Enterprise until DS9's second episode past prologue, because of course the Enterprise appears in the pilot of DS9.
Really? Because I couldn't remember, because I feel like it wouldn't be so unbelievable if there was like a TNG episode that's like, I don't know, someone on a shuttlecraft somewhere doing something, but I guess they usually always go back to the ship. But it doesn't seem as weird. But here it was like, even just when it started, I was like, okay, yeah, we're just off on there was no like, maybe too that's time. I feel like maybe if this was a TOS episode, there would be like Kirk being like, good luck on the mission, guys, or something, or he'd be on the mission.
Yeah, you would think.
I don't know.
Yeah, and you'd think that would be in this episode, just like contractually, just to give Shatner a paycheck that week. Nobody knows why exactly he's not in it. And I don't want to say it's like good that he's not in it, but it is good that he's not in it. I like that this could have easily been Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in a shuttle. And I like the fact that it is not only Nimoy, but Sulu and Uhura giving two minor or sort of ancillary characters a shot at the spotlight, and 2 minority characters as well.
That's true. I feel like they had Uhura because they had like a female character, and they were like, we gotta have the female character from the thing, but it,
Yeah. Or they could have had Emrys, and then they would have to explain like, oh, you can't talk to them? You're a cat person. It was just too much.
Oh, you just think I know Kazint? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Too much baggage there.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, I dug it though, and I like that it was just like we're on the mission, we're going, and yeah, like that's I feel like it does make it a little bit more character driven. I think too it maybe I don't know. I was thinking like they with some of the characters they I don't know if this is the right term, but they kind of pull back from the short story because like the characterization, the humans in like you said in the short story, a bit more like just like people, regular people, and you kind of have this theory of like the future humans in Trek are not quite like that, and so I thought, oh, maybe that's why they have Sulu, is he'll be a bit more out of character than we sort of expect an average crew member of Star Trek to be. But no, he was still pretty much like how I would expect someone on the bridge of the Enterprise to act.
Yeah, and it works well too because it's been established in TOS that he likes weaponry, like he's likes ancient weaponry, and he's sort of like he's a gun guy. Take that for what it's worth. And so when he and Spock sit down to start brainstorming about the aspects of the weapon, like I like the fact that he's the one who kind of comes up with the last setting, the idea of what this thing's capable of.
That does work. That is better too than if it was Kirk, I think.
Yeah, because that would absolutely be Kirk in any other situation.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, man.
This is also the only episode of the animated series in which anybody is killed on screen. And as far as on screen is kind of a stretch, but yeah, the cat people, they're not around at the end of the episode. I think we know what happened to them, but nobody else dies throughout the entire series.
Yeah, that's kind of that wasn't like really over the line for like what I expect them to put in a kid's show or anything, right?
Sure.
We just escape and they blew up or whatever.
Yeah. Being a red shirt is like this, you're totally safe on the animated series, right? Nobody dies. So I guess all the red shirts are safe.
Yeah, no, it's more like, yeah, it'd be funnier, I guess. Like they do this a lot. I noticed this. I watch back, all the old Zelda cartoons, and they it's in the 80s, and they have to be very careful, I think, to be like, oh, they're getting zapped back to, they're respawning, and it's like,
right,
okay.
Yeah,
like it'd be okay if just the skeletons died, like
yeah,
no one's worried about the skeleton well-being, but
yeah,
sure.
This Octorok is it's a fantasy creature in a video game, but we got to make sure that he's okay and he goes back to his Octorok family.
Yeah, no one dies in Nintendo or kids Star Trek, I guess.
Yeah. Samus only uses her freeze beam on everybody, but they thaw out later. They're fine.
Right.
We talked before about how well this fits onto the story, or how well the Star Trek universe fits into this story. And that is absolutely true, with Spock being the puppeteer in this case, and Sulu and Uhura filling the male and female human role. The one thing that doesn't really work is the entire idea of the slavers, which do not, as far as I know, exist in the Star Trek universe. And if they did, that would be some crazy implications for the Star Trek universe, I think. The fact that they know that there was this race that essentially ruled the entire galaxy 1.5 billion years ago, who were, had vast telepathic power and created all these insane weapons, who are all gone now.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like it could fit because we just don't really know much. You know what I mean? About we know about those other civilizations you mentioned, but I think that could, I don't know. I think that would actually add a little bit of a interesting flavor to the Trek world, especially because it is such a, like, it's usually very like, oh, we're all good now, we're pretty peaceful. I even just like that it was like they were talking about being at war with the Kazinti or whatever. Like that was kind of fun, that there's actually some like military conflict and not just like a weird sort of Cold War situation going with everyone.
Yeah. Also, the episode kind of streamlines itself by making the box that they find, not a tuck nip box like it is in the story, but just being from the slaver race themselves. In the story, they think they're finding a slaver box, and it turns out to be a box from the race that opposed them. And in this, they just go, "Yeah, it's just a slaver box. You know, you get it."
I forgot about that. That is cool. That does, again, it kind of just paints a bit more of a picture of like what it was like. Though I do like one thing that was like kind of funny in the episode to me was I feel like when they are talking about all the different unique bits of like tech and stuff like that in the short story, it's like it's introduced in a cool way where like they don't need to like over explain everything. They kind of get to the point for a lot of the stuff, like the police web and blah blah blah. Yeah. So in a way it's kind of implied. It's talked about in a way like everyone knows this, you know. And so it's kind of interesting to see them in Star Trek be like, oh yeah, a police web. And it's like, okay, but in Star Trek, like, that's not really a thing, you know?
Right,
like,
right.
they didn't try to, like, I guess, I feel like if they did it in, like, TNG or TOS or something, they would just be like, oh, they've got us in a containment beam or whatever, you know, like the thing they usually have. But instead, they're just like, nope, use police web, use everything, you know?
Yeah.
We just don't need to worry about it.
Which is, I don't know if that's just an economy of effort where they're like, just use police web. Why would you spend time changing that? Or if they were, you know, for the animated series, open to having like elements, unrecognized elements in there. I don't know how closely Gene Roddenberry sort of oversaw the animated series. I'm guessing not that closely, but you know, I feel like if there was some element that he didn't like in a TOS script, he would have rewritten it because he did that to a lot of episodes. But the fact that Larry Niven is just going, no, it's just a police web. That's what's in my story, and slavers and all these things with kind of the implications that they have, and they all make it in, makes me think that like Gene was happy to have Larry Niven on board, but he wasn't going to spend time rewriting him.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier. Just like the show comes off as very cheap. And so that's probably just what it is. It's like, they just change a couple names and it's fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And get the Spock 2 in there, a 50-foot tall Spock. Because in animation, anybody can look 50 feet tall.
You just like expand it, make it bigger. Yeah. That's
pretty good. Right.
That the cheapness led to, I think, my ultimate favorite moment where Uhura's running away. I always love, just in any of these old cartoons, when a character's running, it always looks hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, both. Yeah, in her high heeled boots.
Yeah,
both in this episode and in the script, the characters are kind of like defined by their failure to get out of this situation. Like if the Kzinti don't make the mistake that they do, I don't know if anybody in either one of these stories like gets out of this. Like they keep getting shot down, they keep getting captured and thrown into this web over and over again. And it's not a very heroic position for them to be in, but it does, you know, make the stakes seem real, like just the inescapability of this situation. And then they don't do this in the kids show, thank God. But, you know, when they threaten to cut off the arms and legs of the guy's wife and then eat them in front of him. And he's like, well, I don't want that to happen. But at the same time, I can't let you guys have this weapon because it's bigger than her arms and legs.
I guess that's a prime example of what I mean of like, okay, I guess he was never put in that position, but like Sulu isn't presented as sort of like, I don't want to say flawed, but you know, he doesn't have to go through as much as the character. So it seems like they pulled their punches a little bit, but I guess I get that for the kids show. Why not?
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt like the action of what's going on.
Yeah, no. Though it does feel like the short story feels more threatening, I think, but I guess I wasn't going into this kids cartoon thinking like, oh, this needs to be the most threatening, scary situation I've ever seen, you know? I actually kind of expected like all the changes that there were, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of how I thought it was going to go. The thing I was more surprised about was just how specifically similar it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's so similar.
even down to the sort of like second act, what was the plot point? Plot point where in the original story, you know, the captain is kicked by the puppeteer, and in this episode he's, you know, drop kicked by a Vulcan, and you get the same sort of situation where it's like, that vegan really beat me up, so now I have to face him in Mortal Kombat. Like, we could just like nuke this place, but no, like he's mine. Yeah. So I'm sort of I'm trapped in this situation where I have to like redeem myself and get my honor back, and I'll even spot you the broken ribs that I've got. So, you know, face me in combat, Vulcan.
I like that he was like, I'll go into it a little bit hurt. Yeah. And yeah, it's another, like, just, it gets you thinking about, like, I guess that's what those books are for, but I was like, oh, I want to kind of know a little bit more. Like, it would be cool if there was, like, a Worf-like character for the Kzinti, where we could occasionally get a window into their society and their
the
like,
Kzinti
honor.
Starfleet officer. Right,
yeah, there's got to be some, right?
Well, Strange New Worlds is coming up.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's where we can really put it to the test.
They've got like General Lizard guy Linus on Discovery. Of course, there's Doug Jones plays Saru, the Kelpian. So yeah, I mean, you could do a Kzinti. Yeah,
they've done a good job of having like, non-human. I can appreciate that.
And he just takes everything too far. It's like, oh, okay, so what? That guy shot you. You got knocked down. Like, you gotta give it to Worf. For a guy who's into like honor and being a Klingon and stuff, he gets knocked on his ass a lot, and then he just kind of brushes it off. Like, yeah, whatever.
Well, yeah, but it's kind of like, I feel like it's sort of like, you got knocked on your ass. Like, you gotta accept that, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't need to like taste the blood of every alien that beams aboard the bridge and knocks him over immediately.
It's more like you've dishonored yourself more so than this person has dishonored you.
Yeah.
That's why I want to see the
He internalizes all of his dishonor. He's like, "Oh, I'm no good."
He does. He has to have freaking Martok kind of give him a pep talk at the end of Deep Space Nine or whatever.
Well, this fictional Kzinti's not going to be like that. He's going to get his back.
That's what I want to see, like the nuances, you know, between the two.
That's what you do. You make it a female Kzinti, and that way you can redeem the idea of female Kzinti, because I don't know what Larry Niven's up to, but apparently female Kzinti are not sentient, or at least they don't consider them to be sentient.
Right. And I was scrolling on image search and I saw one on one of the book covers, and they had some big boobs going on with there's like a really sexy Kzinti, and I was like, is this canon? It was just topless. I was like, man, okay, that's kind of what I expect sometimes out of these sort of sci-fi books.
What part of the internet did you end up in?
It was just Google image search. I was looking at Kzinti, and then there was a novel cover. It's on the cover of one of the books. I think it's a real life book.
Come on, Star Trek. Furries, the final frontier.
Yes.
You merge these two fan bases.
Actually, yeah, that is a great call for them. If they could introduce them, they would bring in a lot of people.
Yeah. It's
for sure.
Too much time has been wasted already. We got to get on this immediately.
I do. Yeah, it is like they do have a similar thing. Like, I love that they always like meet a different race, and it's like they have their own way of like oppressing women. It's like the writers are really creative in thinking of that.
It never fails. Or the women are in control, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh my God.
We gotta fix that.
Yeah, so it gives them like I don't know. I guess that also added to the Uhura running moment was they're like Uhura, like, don't have any women moments, you know.
Yeah, no, you need to act dumb, because that way we can, you know, surprise them later, because they don't realize that you're, you know, an actual person.
But I thought that was going to lead to like her she didn't really do much about it other than like at one point.
Yeah, that would have, yeah.
They did trick them, because they go, you fool, like, their women aren't dumb. And it's like, well, you should have known that then, like, before, man.
Maybe that shows Niven's, like, his inexperience as a screenwriter, because that is, you plant that, and then you have her do something critical near the end.
Flip a switch or something when they're not looking,
Yeah. But instead, I mean, the episode does cleave so clearly to the script, and the woman doesn't really do anything in the script, so.
Yeah.
I did like when they are trapped. Uhura has been captured, and Spock and Sulu have the weapon, but they are stuck on this planet, and they start messing with it, and they discover, oh shit, oh fuck, a nuke gun. We discovered the nuclear setting, and they basically just blow themselves up, and they're like, fuck, okay, all right, this is really bad. They can't get this.
I do like how it's like, okay, it's got a laser.
Laser's good. Yeah,
it's like, why does it have anything else other than the nuke setting?
Yeah, I know, right. Sometimes you need a laser for small detail work, and then sometimes a nuke gun.
But why is that in the same weapon? I guess maybe they kind of explain that, but I feel
if
like
you're a spy,
strange.
sometimes you need a laser. Sometimes you just need a tactical nuke.
That's never gonna work. Then actually, maybe they should start incorporate that into like the next Bond. Give him a nuke, a like watch or whatever.
Yeah, or at this point, I feel like the characters on Discovery have like similar technology to this, right? We've seen like reconfigurable technology, and we've seen that their comm badges, work as teleporters and as tricorders and kind of an all-in-one. So maybe they could have also, it turns into rocket boots or something like that. Like they could have extra utility to some of their technology.
That is just a cool concept of like the adapting, or it's just you flip a switch and it, that's cool. That seems like something they would have discovered on like season 2 of Deep Space Nine and been like, oh, is this Akita Oto's past?
Oh yeah.
Where they're like, oh, it changes like a changeling.
Oh yeah. The changelings, I want to know how they got to be where they are. Like, I know that they can infiltrate any society, and once they realized that there were aliens beyond their planet, like the Great Link, like there aren't like changeling ships or anything, right? Like they just get around by manipulating other races, right?
Right? Or yeah.
We don't see like changeling technology, because I would imagine that it would have like similar properties to changelings, or they are the technology themselves. We see in that one episode a changeling flying through space at warp. So, I mean, if you can become anything, you can become anything.
That's a little OP. So I guess that would explain why they're, how they can become so powerful. In fact, actually, I think they're kind of a good argument against that idea of like everyone being the same. It's like, well, the changelings are crazy more powerful, but they don't, they're not like, they've got people to do the dirty work for them. And then it's like the only way to kind of make them seem like they could be taken down in the end is they get this big old disease, that's got kind of like a handicap they get to make them seem more able to be defeated.
They've got a genetic privilege. They are the embodiment of, you've got this great power, so are you going to be responsible with it? And instead they are like, no, what we'll do is we'll like take over our entire quadrant so nobody can like mess with us ever.
So my pitch is the slavers didn't go away. They got beaten back to their planet, which is the founders' planet, and they're the founders.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to fit it into the lore, but it's
they
pretty much are slavers, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They hold total dominion, literally over their part of space. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I hate thinking about eating a root vegetable with my non-pointed teeth, and how gross it is.
Yeah. It's like, okay, that's really.
it's very specific.
I was trying to remember, like, I feel like that worked better in the short story too. But
you eat a carrot in front of these guys, they are going to puke everywhere. They do not want any part of this.
Yeah, it seemed like it fits kind of in the like children's cartoon setting, but it is a little goofy, I think.
Yeah.
Like, no, not vegetables.
Something else that doesn't quite make the transition to the cartoon is the idea that the Kazinti believe in the ability for like weapons to be haunted, haunted by their past owners. And so that there is, I don't know, there's just something very like sort of Celtic mythology about it. Like there's that a weapon that is cursed, that is still possessed by those who have held it before, and it'll bring misfortune and ruin on those who wield it.
Yeah, I could see that on the like, okay, we gotta chop this down a little bit to fit it into the cartoon,
Yeah,
but it kind of a nice touch.
Yeah, we see it in what's the episode with the Sword of Kalis?
It's called the Sword of Kalis, right?
The Sword of Kalis. Yeah, okay, I got it. Got it one.
What's that? Oh my god, that's great.
But you see something similar where which I mean, I think that we sort of decided that it's not actually a supernatural thing, but
should have been.
There's just too much built up over this weapon. Like it just means too much to some people.
Yeah. Yeah, they could have had that in there, and I think that would probably add some more flavor to the episode too. And it explains them hanging out there so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they almost have like sort of a devotion to these, like a fear and a respect of these ancient weapons,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that there was both the story and the episode preserved that idea of the Kazinti having personalities. They weren't just like, scheming two-dimensional villains. I think it's a little stronger in the story, but you get the idea that the chef captain is like, doing a job, and for him this is the right thing to do. Like he's got to get this stuff. He owes it to his people and to his race, and you see how reluctant he is sometimes to like be messing with this weapon. Like he's a little worried that it's dangerous. He's worried about that haunted weapon thing. And so sometimes he's just like, well, I guess I got to do this. And then I got kicked by a vegetarian. I got to go take care of that. It's just my dance card's full today.
Well, yeah. And it has that whole thing of this could be whatever, we could pull this trigger and I could go flying away because it's like a jetpack, or I could accidentally nuke us all just by pulling the trigger. But we're only going to find out by doing it. Well, maybe they could have maybe taken it somewhere. Oh, well, I guess one thing we didn't talk about was just kind of a neat aspect is that they were kind of like positioning it as like we're supposed to be going rogue. Like that's part of our plan.
Their cover. Yeah.
So that's not like, oh, now we're going to take this back to our planet. It's like, no, we just gotta, it's like sort of a desperate move. They've been sitting there so long and now they got it and they just gotta try to make it work.
Yeah. And at one point they find a setting, which is basically like the Ask Jeeves computer built into the thing where they're like, oh, great. Now we can like, ask it all these questions. What's this setting? What's that setting? And they are kind of betrayed by their not gullibility. It just seems like, yeah, you read the manual, right? And so they talk to this thing, and this thing's like, yeah, turn this thing, idiots. They'll blow up.
Yeah, I like that where they're like, if it's been turned on after all this time or whatever, what would you do? What would you assume? Yeah. That was fun. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, technology can be really dangerous, and we see that a lot in Trek. The technology of Trek is a boon to our characters sometimes, but just as often it's the complication that they deal with. So on every show, we randomly pick from a list of Star Trek technologies. We add what we get to the non-Trek media. We subtract it from the Trek episode to see how each would be different. We call this our technological exchange. And the list of technologies that we pick from goes like this. We've got phasers, holodecks, tricorders, transporters, warp drive, replicators, communicators, shields, advanced medical technology, and androids. And thank God that this is a TOS episode, more or less, so we can, we won't just say, well, obviously it would just be the slaver weapon, but maybe we'll be able to inject a new technology in here. But first, we inject a technology into the story, the soft weapon, by rolling on the random number selecting device, and we get phasers. So if phasers exist in this world, Jesus Christ, you get the slaver weapon, in which they specifically put phasers in the hands of the Kzinti when they're not supposed to have weapons.
Yeah, they had them, right? That's not a change at all. Yeah.
There's a big subplot or just sort of aspect of the story in that, they're using like tasers basically because the Kzinti can't have weapons at all. And this is all they've got. And in the we do see them holding classic TOS phasers in that episode, but we can still make more out of this, I think. Well, so it's not only hand phasers, but it's ship phasers as well. Like the Kzinti are just fully armed. They don't have to worry about this whole police web thing necessarily. They don't have to use indirect stuns. They can just go full phaser on this. Phasers are extremely powerful. So if the slow weapon turns out to be what we see in the story, where it's got a bunch of different settings, but really the most like desirable one is the mass energy conversion one. I mean, a phaser can do that for the most part, right? A phaser's like incredibly destructive.
Well, they have shown phasers on like the highest setting, right?
Right.
And it's like blow your head up or whatever.
Right.
But will it nuke a place? I don't know. Like, is there a way to what do you call it? Like jailbreak your phaser and make it like
yeah, you set it to overload.
True, yeah.
Which phaser should not have that setting,
That's
right?
a strange setting.
Low, high, and overload. Yeah.
I feel like that makes it too easy to be like, okay, I put it on overload setting and set it by the warp core.
Yeah,
it
right.
Makes like sabotage way too easy, right?
Yeah.
That's why it makes a loud noise when it's on the setting.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, there is no silent overloaded phaser. Yeah. I don't know. It's true that maybe your phaser would just glow, and then the mountain that you're pointing it at would glow and disappear, and it wouldn't like explode or be totally converted to energy necessarily. I guess we don't really know. We know that a phaser, when it stuns you, is just sort of like applying, directed phased energy, and it sort of overloads your nervous system. But like when it's on kill, I'm not exactly sure what's happening. Like, are you just being atomized and turned into water vapor, and infrared energy? I'm not exactly sure what's happening. But if they did have very phasers with incredibly destructive power, maybe they're not impressed then by what they get from the box. Maybe they're looking for something more than that. Maybe they're looking for the secret of the hibernation technology. Maybe they're looking for what do those other things do? What's the meat for? What's the little thing that looks like a communicator for?
So we get like a whole episode of them like futilely dissecting the meat and trying to figure out what it does, and then they're like, oh, it's just meat, and they're like, what about this gun? And they're like, well, we don't need a gun.
Yeah, they mention, in the story, and I think sort of obliquely in the episode, that it's like they haven't had like meat in a long time. So maybe, sure, upon first scan, the meat's poisonous, but maybe they're able to reverse engineer it and create like a self-growing steak. And so if they concentrate on that, like, meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah. I love a good meat-based episode. That would be great. I wonder, too, if it could just, like, do you overlook all the settings, or, like, do you care about the individual settings? I guess you probably would, because you'd be like, well, maybe we can figure out, the secrets from one of these settings, find the computer. I don't know.
They have completely meat-based technology after this. So they've got meat spacesuits and meat spaceship, and they meet Spock, and they're like, eat it, veggie boy.
I mean, that's like those, like, what are those, like the Species 8472? They have meat ships.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that Star Trek never really gets into. One of the many parts of sci-fi that they never really reach into is like organic technology. There's the Tin Man, ship in TNG, which is like a living ship. And you've got species A472, but most races, have a warp core and have tritanium and all that kind of stuff.
That would be cool to see more. Like, they should introduce more like big name species that have just like totally different methods of like propulsion and stuff. Maybe there's a steampunk ship.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, steampunk,
a meat punk.
Meat punk, yeah, bio ships, Willy Wonka's candy based armada,
candy based, yeah, that'd be good.
Go the whole way.
Sugar, get all the sugar rush going. Or like there's just like chocolate churning a like water wheel that makes it go.
Incoming gobstoppers, brace yourself. I
think Trek could use like a reboot, and like maybe not the candy, but like let's just get some more
open it
types of ships going.
Open it up to a bunch of other things. Well, let's switch over to the animated series episode, and I think we're in good hands here because we're going to have to remove phasers from this world, and that would definitely change what happens here.
So it's all... Well, then it becomes more of a test of strength,
Oh, you know what? If we... the dice wants to kill us. We know this. But we can go beyond this. But I'm going to posit that adding phasers to the slow weapon makes it the slaver weapon, and taking phasers away from the slaver weapon makes it the slow weapon, which makes sense. If you take phasers out of the hands of the cat people, then they have to use the stun weapons and the police web and everything, and you've basically got the Niven short story.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's already what's going on here. But I was sort of thinking like, no one's got phasers then.
Yeah, phasers don't exist. Yeah,
and so I think you are going to have to rely more on physical fighting. Like Spock is going to have to throw down probably.
Interesting.
At some point, right? Because they have phase. I guess they get disarmed is the thing pretty quickly. But they wouldn't. There would be no disarming at all. So I feel like they show up, then the Kzinti pounce on them, but then they gotta kung fu fight a little bit.
And if we extend phasers to energy weapons, then, we got to take the premise for what it is. So. What they find in this box is a device that has like 3 different types of energy weapon projection capabilities in it. And so this would like completely revolutionize war in the Star Trek galaxy.
Oh, okay. So that doesn't go away. Cause that would be kind of interesting of like, it's cause I guess that's kind of...
Otherwise there's just like meat in the box. There has to be like, we have to have an episode still. So yeah.
Well, it'd be great if they're all fighting over this box, but then at the end, they open it up.
Blue Apron.
Yeah. It's just an ad at the end. Like, they give you like the exact amount of ingredients you need.
Right. Yeah. It's so easy.
Spock could have beat Chuff Captain in a fight, by the way, right?
He doesn't think so. He says his odds are 16 to 1 against. Yeah.
Because, I guess I don't know.
He's worried about facing this guy.
Okay.
Although I believe in him.
That's good. It makes me think like the Kzinti are like gotta be pretty tough because I don't know when this is learned, but like we're supposed to believe that like Vulcans are like pretty jacked up,
Right, but so yeah, here's an idea for you. When Vulcans are experiencing the plaque tau or the blood fever during their 7-yearly Ponfar, they're like 10 times as jacked up, right? They're like invincible and super strong. So we need to weaponize Vulcan horniness. Yes, we need like Vulcan crack troops. Get out there. They get out their copies of Maxim magazine with Jolene Blaylock, on the cover, and they're like, and then they just like run into battle. They're completely unstoppable.
This is like the opposite of Equilibrium.
yeah.
Where it's like, no, we're not gonna suppress your passion here. We're gonna weaponize it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of message this sends.
Yeah, probably not a good one, but yeah, we just get them. We get them all horned up, and we just get them out there.
Oh my god, this would make like a
out.
great right-wing propaganda film. Actually, I think.
Oh my God, it does kind of sound like that.
Like
this is what we're fighting for. This picture of T'Pol right here, man.
all these left-wing like degenerates, their horny army.
You don't see Spock getting excited about looking at a picture of Sulu, do you? No, I don't think so. I hate what we've created. I hate it.
Yeah. Oh, we got something out of it at least.
We did get something out of it. I enjoyed this overall. I always like it when we go back to the animated series, and getting to do it again was fun.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, every time I'm like, oh, I really want to like get into this and watch more, and I kind of never do, because I do sort of like watching it for the first time before doing one of these episodes, but I don't know, this Tribble thing you told me about sounds cool.
There's only 22 episodes, so on a long enough timeline, we do hit everyone.
There's something to, I don't know, this is kind of like on Virtual Theater when we did like the bonus episodes of The Legend of Zelda, and something I sort of like pitched what was like, if they were ever to do something new, they would never do this, but like I do like the idea of like keeping that sort of vibe and like that sort of like crazy energy that series specifically has, but it's not like totally tongue in cheek, and that I would love to see like just another like totally buck wild Star Trek animated series that's not just like Rick and Morty, like we're goofing around, or like I even like Prodigy, but it's like, it's a totally different thing. I would love to see just like them do a throwback to like classic Trek and have it be like really weird and out there, like hard sci-fi, but for kids maybe.
Yeah, there are those who would argue that that's what's happening on Lower Decks.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a bit more like, hey guys, it's it's tongue in cheek, it's like winking at you, and I feel like there's something so like, even though it is like cheap and all this stuff, there's something like very pure about watching these,
Yeah, it's not. I mean, obviously the original series wasn't that worried about continuity, but it's not really worried about continuity.
Yes,
it's just here is something really weird that, as we've proven, or as Larry Niven proved, could happen in any sci-fi story, but our familiar characters are the ones that are here. So whether that's we're literally going to another universe where there's like a council of aliens that rules over, who gets to come and go, or we're meeting a ancient alien who was the inspiration for like an Aztec god. Like there's all these, or we're meeting a magic Satan guy who takes us to a world of magic and Lucky Charms. Like it's all those strange things. And then our Star Trek characters, and it's not worried about where we are in the Dominion War, or like what year it is, or what century. Yeah, it's just like standalone Star Trek tales.
Yeah, I do respect Lower Decks for kind of bringing in stuff that, because it's animated, bringing that stuff, but it's on the same level to me as like just referencing like TNG or something, where it's like, here's these fun Easter eggs where. Yeah. I guess they have done new things though too, but yeah, I just want to see something like totally. I guess they had like those guys who get like stressed out and they multiply or whatever. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's something so like, it's not ironic, I love this like non-ironic.
It thinks it is. Making the Packlids, the new big bads. Wow, it's great.
Right? Yeah, it's that is very ironic, and there's something I like about the animated series of it's just so like sincere that I would love to see another thing like that, but still be like. I don't know. I guess there's something very. I love Prodigy actually. I really like that season, but it's very like polished and new. And I don't know. Maybe they're just not going to make like weird old stuff like this anymore. But I guess my inspiration when I was talking about the Zelda cartoon was I did think about like Adult Swim and how they were like really experimental with like reusing old properties and like, oh, we made like a talk show and something like that out of Space Ghost, or sometimes they are like, I think of like that show Moral Oral or whatever, where it's like starts off as a parody, but then it's like its own weird thing, you know?
Yeah. My I got a lot of problems with Lord X, but my main one is the stupid insistence that it is canon. Like, who cares? I don't feel like it's invalidated because it's not canon, and having to worry about canon and make all these canon references and make everything fit slows the show down. You know, Brat gets his head blown up one week, he's back the next week.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the canon of Space Ghost.
C-Lab blows up every episode.
Yeah, exactly. You're just telling the best stories, the funniest stories that you can. And so, I mean, Lower Decks does that to a degree, but they're just, everybody is so concerned that it's accepted as like a canon series, and it's like, that's just the wrong thing to get excited about. I think
I feel like I know that from Zelda too. Like in the Zelda community, it's like people are so like self-conscious about that stuff, and like they like it's like, it doesn't matter, you know. It's not that important.
Yeah. Well, anyway, before we get back into video games, let's bring this one to a close. Should we tell people what's coming up on the next episode of Backtracking?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to be covering the Deep Space episode. What was it called? Bada Bada Bing Bada Bada Bang or something? Bada Bing Bada Bang?
Bada Bing Bada Bang.
Okay,
yep.
Maybe I was too many badas. And it's got a sort of a companion here with Ocean's 11, and we're going to be doing the original for some obvious reasons.
The Rat Pack version, not the Soderbergh version. Although I don't know, I might end up watching that just in
if
case.
I have time, I'll watch it because it's been a long time, but no guarantees. Like I said, I've got a lot of runes to collect.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Collect all your runes and kill all your surprise bears. I don't really know anything that happens.
You know what? I've had a surprise bear. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I got that right then. Well, that's it for this week's Backtracking. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, tell a friend. And you can follow us at @Backtracking on Twitter. And tell us, too, what you think that we should look at in future episodes. And Gooey, tell the people where they can find you online.
I'm on Twitter. I'm at GooeyFame.
And I'm at KA1IBAN on Twitter. And all the shows on the Just Enough Trope Network are at Just Enough Trope on Twitter. And that's it for us. We will see you soon. And until then, keep on trekking.